Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on Singularity Protocol. We have our world famous speaker, Mr. Rob Enderley and Dr. Tamanna. Mr. Rob, my first questions. Mhm. My first question for you: what is the Singularity Protocol and how does it relate to artificial general intelligence development?
Well, so the singularity is the point in which AI surpasses human intelligence and takes us into an uncontrollable um, amount of technological advancement. The Singularity Protocol is the plan to deal with that superintelligence in a way that hopefully we survive it. So that, in a nutshell, that's what it is. It's the plan to deal with the superintelligence that we've created, which was identified at the singularity event, or when that intelligence significantly surpassed the human intelligence, and the result is an uncontrolled technological advancement. So it's a way to wrap our arms around that advancement and try to reel in some of the extremes so that the race survives it. Because at least under the current definition of singularity, without a singularity protocol, we don't survive.
Mhm. Thank you. Dr. Tamanna, what you want to discuss about the Singularity Protocol?
Yeah, so I guess, even in science fiction, for example, the concept of singularity carries a lot of intrigue and excitement. Often depicted in science fiction as moment of profound transformation, the singularity represents a hypothetical point in time where artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence, leading to exponential advancement in technology and civilization, and in the meantime become somewhat independent from human maintenance. But what is exactly singularity? It is basically as envisioned by futurists and technologists, refers to a theoretical event horizon where artificial intelligence achieves a level of intelligence that surpasses that of humanity. So that's like amazing, because that only in the previous decades, science fiction could have thought about, but now we are seeing it happening in front of our eyes. And at this juncture, AI system could potentially improve and evolve themselves at an accelerating pace, leading to an explosion of innovation and capability. This concept was popularized by mathematician and science fiction writer Werner Winch in the early 1990s and later expanded upon by futuristic Ray Kurzweil. Kurzweil famously predicted that singularity would occur around 2045 based on trends in computational power and AI development. So he could, as a futuristic, analyze the whole structure of AI development, though it was not developed during that time. In essence, the singularity represents a point of rapid, unpredictable change where future becomes increasingly difficult to forecast due to the unprecedented capability of the AI. So yeah, that's what I like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question for Mr. Rob, like how does the Singularity Protocol ensure ethical AI alignment and prevent the risk associated with super intelligent system?
So recognize that the Singularity Protocol is mostly a theory at this particular point. It's not an actual plan. I mean, it should be an actual plan because that's the name of it. But the hope is that with the Singularity Protocol, it would address the more destructive natures of the singularity. In other words, with the protocol, you're going to focus on human safety. You're going to focus on human advancement. You're going to make sure you're going to put in place protections to assure the healthy continuation of the human race. That's the whole point of the thing. So once the Singularity Protocol is developed, and we've got something like that called Singularity Net, but that's more of a plan for development than it really is a plan to protect the race, the human race, which is what the Singularity Protocol is supposed to do. So the fundamentals here are to assure the ethical foundation for the singularity for the advanced superintelligent AI. I should call it singularity. That we're really trying to assure that the superintelligence, this AI that's so much smarter than people, behaves itself. We don't live in a Terminator world or Colossus Foreman project world. That would clearly be better than a Terminator world. But the point is when you've got this out of control technological advancement, that in of itself is an existential threat. So the Singularity Protocol is designed to take that out of control part and put it back into control to better protect the race. So it would have an ethical foundation. It would have a humanistic foundation. It would have certain protections and hard barriers that would prevent the superintelligence from doing extreme damage to the race.
Thank you. Dr. Tamanna, what you want to discuss about these questions, like how does the Singularity Protocol ensure ethical AI alignment and prevent risk associated with super intelligent system?
Well, I guess that has to be formulated now because it's a very new thing, I mean, it's only developed just a decade back or something, two decades back. And so I guess it's still a new thing, and the ethical standards. Once we realize that this is the potential harm that it can cause to human beings in a certain way, that that this, if we come to know that this would for example, if suppose if suppose we could envisage that aliens are going to strike earth, so how would the AI or Singularity Protocol interact with in such a situation? So I guess those kind of things are there, and that's why science fiction has predicted earlier itself about aliens, for example, and many physicists have also agreed to it, that aliens are there. So how AI would bombard in alien, if it were to, the UFOs are something which are still intriguing. So many of these things are there. Ethical standards are concerned, what I would suggest is that we need to have a proper protocol whereby we should see that these ethical ethics or these principles AI should not be able to transcend, or we should not be able to feed it into the system of AI robots, for example, which might just transmute human beings as such. So I guess that is the whole thing. So Singularity Protocol, I mean, it would lead to decentralization for sure, but I guess uh, in whose hand it is right now, because obviously the people with power would have access to these kind of machines, so how to decentralize it, and how to make it available to most people, but in a way which is of limited harm to people or human beings in general, or animals in general, for example. So that would be required.
Uh, Thank you. My next questions: what are the key technological components of Singularity Protocol, including blockchain, decentralized AI, and autonomous decision making?
Well, we're talking about the protocol, not the Singularity. So the protocol would have four basic components. One, and predominantly a focus on AI safety, to make sure that the superintelligence in its attempt to solve problems isn't doing a greater harm to the race, and assuring the impact on the planet, the people, the animals, the rest of it, so that the superintelligence does not do harm. Number two, it has to be decentralized and transparent. You don't want one power developing the protocol to protect the race. It really has to be everyone together creating the protocol, because the difficulty is that it's to assure that the superintelligence is not controlled by any one person or one group to the disadvantage of others. You don't want a superintelligence to become a weapon, because not only is the danger that the weapon would do far more damage than you would have anticipated, but the weapon could turn on its maker. And so the end result is you want everybody looking at this. You want development to be transparent. If there's something that's nefarious going on, you want it caught before it's implemented, because once it's implemented, the superintelligence, it's going to be incredibly hard, if not impossible, for humans to stop. Number three is ethical considerations. It would have to address the ethical dilemmas that surround AI, the trolley problem, for instance. How do you deal with these things? And does the needs of the many overcome the needs of the one? Those would have to be baked in. In other words, so it could make decisions that were consistent with the long-term health and well-being of the race. And last, no concrete implementation at this phase. The difficulty in creating a protective mechanism against the superintelligence that doesn't exist is you're basically creating a fence to protect something you don't know if you can climb a fence or not. And in fact, in that particular example, I'm pretty sure superintelligence could be able to climb a fence. So the protocol has to be fluid. You can't make it concrete until you know what the superintelligence is. And even when you know what it is, I don't think you can make it concrete, because you're not going to have just one superintelligence. The AIs can proliferate at a massive speed, and certainly far quicker than we can. And as AIs mutate, they're going to evolve. And so your protocol has to be able to shift dynamically with the kinds of threats that will result from that kind of very rapid evolution. So it can't be a concrete protocol. In and of itself, it has to be flexible. It has to be able to react at the same speed that the AIs can evolve, or faster. Otherwise, the protocol would be worthless. The AI superintelligence would work around the protocol, rendering it moot.
Mhm. Thank you. Dr. Tamanna, what you want to discuss about what are the key technological components of Singularity Protocol, including blockchain,
Yeah, so
decentralized AI?
yeah, so I guess what, given the potentially transformative nature of singularity, ensuring that it is achieved through decentralized means is of paramount importance. As both of us have been saying this, Mr. Rob and I, that decentralization refers to distribution of power and control away from central authorities such as governments or corporations, and towards a diverse network of stakeholders. In this regard, decentralization is crucial for several reasons. Resilience, A. Decentralized systems are inherently more resilient to failure and attack than centralized ones. In this context of singularity, decentralization could help mitigate the risks of catastrophic AI failure or abuse. So that's what I was just saying that power might just get centralized in the hands of few powerful people, which is going to be majorly problematic. I mean, we have seen the nuclear um, power, the way it's got centralized amongst a few countries, and it's not being allowed in other countries to come up. So I guess it's only a few clique of elites, elite countries which are like now upholders of the nuclear power. So I hope the same does not happen with the AIs. And now decentralization fosters innovation by enabling greater participation and collaboration among diverse actors. A decentralized approach to AI development could lead to more ethical, inclusive, and robust AI systems, even self-improving ones. So it could self-improve itself, self um, noticing oneself that this is not correct, or this is unethical, or this is not. If we could feed in that kind of a thing, that it could self check itself. Then equity. Decentralization promotes equity by ensuring that the benefits of the singularity are shared more broadly among society. By democratizing access to AI technology and resources, decentralization can help mitigate the risk of exasperating existing inequalities. Then one of the other things which I'd like to discuss is about security. That is, decentralization enhances security by reducing the concentration of power and data in the hands of few entities. This can help protect against abuses of power and ensure that AI systems are developed and deployed in a manner that prioritizes the public good. So the singularity represents a watershed moment right now in the human history, and we have a lots and lots of research going on in this particular field. And science fiction has looked at this concept way back, and they have an inclination what a world with computers developed beyond a strata would look like. So the while realizing the benefits of singularity while mitigating its risks will require a concerted effort to ensure that AI development is conducted in a decentralized, ethical, and inclusive manner. Embracing the principle of decentralization, we can harness the transformative power of AI to create a future that is more equitable, prosperous, and sustainable for all of us. So I guess we need to understand that, decentralization is a must. And it should not happen the same way it's happened with many of the technologies, that it gets concentrated in certain countries, and other countries do not get a chance. Because the more the merrier, the more people who get into this field. And I hope that does not add on to the chaotic part of it. But what we need is that, more brains to come in, which are not evil but good. If the spiritual aspect to it, I might just add in that, it would they should not be evil. They so that unethicality of human beings should not be transmuted into the AI machines. So yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. My next questions for Mr. Rob. Uh, yeah, how can government, business, and research institution collaborate with the Singularity Protocol framework to foster safe in AI?
What the question is how? The problem we've got right now is we've got a race for artificial intelligence development, and there's a lot of effort to get all of the friction out of the way of this development. In other words, make it happen as quickly as possible. And we're certainly seeing some troubling behaviors out of companies like OpenAI, where they've all but eliminated their the safety protocols and their efforts to assure what they're creating is in fact safe. To date, we only have DeepSeek that has implemented a quality control element with a secondary AI. That should be the common theme, not the exception. And once again, it's kind of indicating that the problem we've got is right now the effort to develop the Singularity Protocol is substantially less than the effort focused on creating superintelligence. This is like giving everybody superpowered engines, putting them on the road, and then thinking about traffic police maybe later. You're going to have a lot of dead people. So the issue right now is we don't have enough focus on this. Government, industry, and education should be heavily engaged, just as heavily engaged in this as they're engaged in protection against cyber attacks, to develop the flexible Singularity Protocol to address this coming problem, and to make sure that AI development is happening worldwide in a safe and ethical fashion. But it's not, and as we know, a lot of governments don't cooperate with each other, and what we're talking about is a potential weapon that is substantially more powerful than the atomic bomb. So whichever country gets it first is certainly going to have a significant advantage if that superintelligence doesn't wipe them out first, which is the underlying problem. Is this is not a bomb per se. This is something that is intelligent, and once it reaches superintelligence, can easily breach whatever protections we currently have in place. And so the protocol's got to be strong enough to stop that from happening. and yet it's not being developed in that fashion. So this needs to have the same, if not greater, focus than our concerns with regard to nuclear proliferation, which you could also argue are a little bit behind the times and not sufficient against the underlying problem. So we're asking governments to do something that they're not doing right now with nuclear weapons at a degree much higher than they should be doing on nuclear weapons, and yet, as we can see with nuclear weapons, they're not even meeting the benchmark, the bar with regard to adequate control of that particular dangerous technology, let alone the dangerous technology that artificial intelligence represents. So what should they do? Actually, at this particular point in time, since cooperation is kind of out the door, is every country should be developing its own Singularity Protocol and preparing to spin it up as a protective measure, probably going a bit farther and looking at efforts like the Lifeboat Foundation's effort and Google's foundation, AI Shield efforts, and going beyond that to assure that the superintelligence doesn't become destructive.
Thank you. Dr. Tamanna, what you want to discuss about this question? How can government, business, and research institutions collaborate within the Singularity Protocol framework to foster safe AI innovation?
Yeah, so I guess the research institutes and I mean it has to be a tripartite kind of a thing, I mean where governments, the research institute, and non-governmental organizations come together. These technologies, they might just, anybody who's just kind of a lay person who's reading it might feel that it's very interesting, but these things can be extremely harmful. So you can't leave everything on government, you can't leave everything on research institute, or you can't leave everything on the NGOs, because probably they might just exploit it or use it for certain purpose, which might, for example, NGOs, I mean, they are many of them are into money collection, you know and their purpose of many of these NGOs is that they will ensure that through a certain cause, they should generate certain finance for themselves, and they might, a particular family might be using it, the ones who are like running the NGO. Similarly, research institute, they have an agenda, that this is, for example, we have seen that there are for example, like in America right now, the Rand Institute or the Fox News, they are working for a certain section. So I mean, so I guess research institute too, have to be very careful, because a neutral, unbiased approach towards a certain issue is important. So governments can do it, but governments have to control this, but they can't control it, because we have to decentralize the system as well. So extreme transparency is required in this particular sector, so that what will really happen is that the best brains are going to come in from different fields, and they'll just kind of people who are really talented and gifted would be with ethics. I mean, I just don't know what ethics is all about, because we have the best brains which have developed nuclear bombs. Best ethical people, for example, I'm sorry, ethical people who have developed, for example, Abdul Kalam, he developed nuclear bomb of India. So I mean, and he was an extremely ethical person, very humble and very learned. But this is what happened. So I mean, I'm not commenting on what nuclear bombs are they important, are they not important, that's for some other day. But as of now, what I'm trying to say is we need to be very cautious, and all the governments, the individuals, the NGOs and research institute need to come together and decentralize power structures in such a way that ethical usage of this technology is generated. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Mr. Rob, my next question for you, how impact would the Singularity Protocol have on the global economy, job market, and social structure in the coming decades?
Okay, this is kind of like asking the question of how will safety belts impact car speed. Um, Singular protocol is a protective function. It is by nature it is designed to restrict a superintelligence so that it does no harm. The it doesn't have an impact on anything until there's a singularity for a superintelligence for it to work against. And so there would be a certain drag on productivity for it, for AI productivity, because you're putting in place the protective elements to assure that the AI doesn't get out of control, and that's going to slow AI development. But as far as having a broad impact on societal structures, addressed, it's really designed to protect against a broad adverse impact by the superintelligence against those structures. So it's a protective measure to restrict harm. As long as the superintelligence isn't causing harm, the Singularity Protocol should have little or no impact. As soon as the superintelligence starts to cause harm, then the protocol should kick in to provide protective measures. So, for instance, if the superintelligence were to decide that certain aspects or certain cultures needed to be weeded out for the good of humanity, and implemented a targeted virus to take out those elements of society, the Singularity Protocol would react to that. In that case, it would have a positive impact because it's offsetting the negative impact of the superintelligence. On the other hand, if the superintelligence was to move to alter humanity and to advance it in a way that wasn't considered healthy for humanity, then the protocol would kick in and in theory correct that behavior as well. And given we're talking then about a superintelligence applied to humanity, which could increase humanity's productivity, but in a negative fashion for humanity. In other words, in a fashion that would eventually wipe us out. Then in that case, it would restrict productivity because restrict the productivity that was pointed in that wrong direction. So its impact is restrictive, but only against the superintelligence that it's targeting. And so in most cases, its impact on society should be largely transparent. Its impact on the superintelligence would be significant, so arguing about the Singular Protocol as having any type of impact on society at large, it's really restricting the impact that a superintelligence would have on that society at large. So we're kind of looking at this upside down.
Great. Dr. Tamanna, what you want to discuss about this? How does the Singularity Protocol ensure scalability and security in decentralized AI network?
Yeah, so I guess security and safety of AI, AI generated machines or AI generated medicines, or for example, the robots, for example, so I guess that has to be ensured so that what really happens is that uh, like for example, you could say that as a technology platform, it should be open and decentralized network of AI services. So but it should ensure that there is security of humans from robots, for example. I hope, because we have had several movies, for example, which showed that the robots overtook human beings, and that's a major danger, which is true. I mean, you can't just shove it off. It is a true fact. And I guess what we need to understand is that a secure AI system would ensure that people are not harmed by development of AI tools. I mean, for example, I mean, AI's development might not lead into humans, for example, becoming, puppets in the hand of AI. So many of these things have to be thought. It's just politicians making sweeping statements like, we do not, AIs are not going to harm and stuff like that, like as it was happening in the 2-3 days back when we had the AI conference in Paris. So we need to keep all our cards open. We have to understand that these possibilities are there, they might just happen. And so to control and secure a system whereby human beings are not replaced, and right kind of individuals are in charge of these AI systems, so that I mean, corruption uh, does not take place. People, all power corrupts all. So I mean, if one individual, for example, the president of US, for example, he's an extremely powerful man. So probably he might just connect with some technologist, and like Elon Musk, etc., and come up with a certain novel idea of an AI system which might just harm human beings. So, and all those things have to be understood, and that is why the need for a decentralized system whereby politicians, who are not knowing, and that's why we need a combination of philosophers and technologists to come together. Philosophers, because just talk to them about ethics, and the basics of what our civilizational thinkers have spoken about, our philosophers have spoken about, from way back from the Greek times to now. And if they haven't spoken, then we need to uh, indulge ourselves into this debate and come up with ethical answers to difficult questions, and not let one individual or individuals, people, to control the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rob, what role do blockchain, smart contract, and DAOs plays in the implementation of Singularity Protocol? Or do you have any new idea or anything about this concept?
Well, remember the Singularity Protocol is a protocol to restrict AI. The roles of blockchain, smart contracts really don't have much play here. They would be part of implementing a lot of different things. Blockchain is a distributed accounting form. The boy, smart contract. None of that really applies. I don't think. The only thing that might apply is decentralized autonomous organizations. Um, that would be core to developing AI. But once again, if they're decentralized and autonomous becomes somewhat concerning because you need a certain amount of control if you're going to put in place protective measures. The whole point to a Singularity Protocol is it flows across organizations and it's designed to prevent a catastrophic outcome. So the decentralization is part is positive in that regard. The autonomous part could be concerning because what you want is a certain amount of consistent control across those organizations. And so if they're fully autonomous, then I don't think the Singularity Protocol works, because you need controls across all of the organizations that are developing the AI to assure that no one organization has too much power, to assure no one organization is creating something that is overall harmful to the whole. But if these organizations are autonomous, then who says that they couldn't create the superintelligence all themselves, and thus bypass the protocol? Other than the decentralized part of that particular question, the other two I don't think would have much impact whatsoever. I just don't see. Again, they might have elements, because remember, the Singular protocol's got to be fluid and flexible, and it's got to be designed to morph to address the problem that the superintelligence, which doesn't exist yet, presents. And so, recognize you're trying to create a protective measure for something that you don't really know what it is yet. The superintelligence could emerge in any country, in any company, and it could be focused on anything from infrastructure to weapons. And so the protocol would have to be broad enough and capable enough to morph into a protective measure against however that superintelligence emerged. And so I guess it would contain some of these elements in case it needed them as tools. But at this particular point in time, I don't see the relevance in this exercise to those technologies to solve this particular problem.
Thank you. Dr. Tamanna, what you want to discuss about? What role do blockchain, smart contract, and DAO play in the implementation of Singularity Protocol?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, decentralized DAO, for example, as we were just talking about also previously about decentralized autonomous organization, and DAO was first proposed by BitShares, Steemit, and EOS founder Dan Lariman in the year 2015, and which was later refined, and so no single government could decide to take it down. So, if we were to look at the components of DAO, it's basically no central legal entity. In DAO, there is no central legal entity. This means that no single entity is responsible for regulating the project. So, we here need to also understand that the law, for example, has to come in, and because how much of law has to come in, the legal eagles have to come in, that has to be thought. And how positive that might be, that has to be seen. So, there is no single legal entity which might just ensure this thing. So we have to look at the cases where in the countries like US and UK and European countries like Germany have taken action against AIs, for example. And what are the cases in that area? Then smart contracts are created and extensive tested to make sure important details are not overlooked. Tokens are used in DAO for validators to motivate them and to ensure active, fair, and quick participation. So now, we need a DAO beginning an association with somebody that includes financing and cash requires a great deal of confidence in the individuals you're working with. Yet it's difficult to believe somebody you just had at some point associated with on the web. So, for example, DAO casting a ballot is needed by individuals for any progression to be implemented. But the traditional organization said, depending on the structure, changes can be requested for the sole party or casting a ballot might be advertised. So, funding, etc., from where it's happening, and then the deployment of this thing of DAO have to be seen, and so, for example, you have the Dash, the well-known computer money. Dash is an illustration of decentralized independent association in the light of manner in which it represented and the manner in which its planning framework is organized. So, blockchain is again, in the same thing. Cryptocurrency is. So, these things are there, and so I guess as much as possible we need to decentralize AIs. And as Rob was also saying about people being I mean the people, the decentralization is important. So I guess that's the whole thing. And so thou thous are supposed to ensure that kind of thing, so that people do not they're not, so some individuals who are controlling the whole thing. And so as much as possible technology needs to be decentralized. I guess if anybody of you have visited India, you would see around the traffic headlights, there are people who are just sitting there, beggars, and they're like in a pathetic state. So I guess if we were to include them, if they were educated enough, so don't you think we would have been much richer? So I guess that kind of decentralization I am looking for, so that no individual is bereft of education, no individual is bereft of technology. As much, whatever the age might be, everybody should have the right to learn. Our parents, for example, who do not know certain kind of technology, I might not know a certain technology, my younger counterparts might know it better. But all of us need to understand technology together, and together only we can rise.
Thank you. Mr. Rob, there are some comments from our audience. If you want to respond some of his comments, Mr. Michael, he wrote, World Talent Economic Forum considered the key anthropological, ontological factor involved in the singularity protocols. Then he writes, World Talent Economic Forum consider AI innovations in safety, security, stability, and sustainability with respect to consciousness, human capital.
Yeah, so those none of those are questions. Those are just statements for suggestions as to what the World Talent Economy Forum could do, and that's up to you. I mean, you're kind of the World Talent Economy Forum, so that he's just providing advice.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So my next questions for you, yeah, what are the key technological component and architecture that enable the Singularity Protocol to function effectively?
I think we already addressed that question. I addressed that a while back.
Okay, so do you want to add any comments on the Singularity Protocol?
Well, so once again, what we're talking about here is a set of protections placed on a superintelligence that doesn't yet exist, and so that means coming up with, and as I mentioned before, one of those components is to make sure that the protocol isn't concrete. And so in a way, you're asking for a concrete solution for a problem that specifically isn't supposed to have a concrete solution to this point. What you want is a set of resources focused on creating protective measures against the emergence of a superintelligence. That's it. Basically, they're going to create, in effect, a simulation to scale of what is likely to occur with the superintelligence, and then put together a flexible plan as to how to deal with that superintelligence wherever it emerges. And remember, it may not emerge in your country, my country, could emerge in some other country. It could actually come to pass all on its own. We have AIs writing code now, and there's certainly a high potential for an AI to accidentally or on purpose create this superintelligence. And so the protocol has to take all of that into account. So it has to be incredibly broad. It needs to be a high priority focus for the organizations that are missioned to regulate technological advancement, and right now it does not. And so our best bet is to pull together and try to create a framework to roll out the protocol as soon as the threat emerges, and do it across countries, across companies, and make it a worldwide effort. It's a shame the UN isn't a more powerful organization, because this is probably where it should reside. But the organization does need teeth. It doesn't need just a bunch of people theorizing about protocol should be. It needs people that have the power to implement the protocol if in fact it needs to be implemented right away to address an impending problem. And this has to move very rapidly. Recognize the superintelligence by very nature can act, react, and perform far faster than any one or group of humans, and that's what makes the superintelligence. And so the protocol in and of itself has to take that into account, and likely has to be embedded in an AI itself. In other words, the AI is programmed by this worldwide committee, much like AI Shield was conceived by the Lifeboat Foundation, and a similar effort inside of Google was conceived, in order to respond to the threat as soon as it is detected, and hopefully before it emerges. Because there's a real doubt in my mind that if you create a protocol that in and of itself isn't a superintelligence, I don't think it's going to be reactive enough. I don't think it's going to be fast enough or comprehensive enough to address the problem. It'd be like having safety belts that are made out of tissue paper. They're not going to work. I mean, maybe they'll make you feel better, but they're not going to. They just break. So creating a protocol that will take this kind of stress should be a very high priority, because this is going to jump the rails. It's nuclear weapons, nuclear energy development jumped the rails, and it resulted in some devastating attacks. I'm not arguing the right or wrong of the attacks. It's just that typically when you develop a technology, it's to help people, not kill them in ever increasing numbers. And a superintelligence could do exactly that. And so you be locked in, implemented, and have the authority to act at light speed. And that means people have to. I mean, as soon as the danger represents itself, people have to be able to hit a button and step back. In fact, we may not even be fast enough to hit the damn button. It may very well be that you'll have a secondary AI that triggers as soon as it sees the threat. And of course, the danger then becomes: does the superintelligence Singularity Protocol in and of itself become a danger? We know in fighting fires, you create backfires to prevent the spread. Could the Singularity Protocol, in reacting to a perceived threat, actually become a greater threat in and of itself? These are the kinds of questions we need to have answered before we get to that superintelligence phase and things become too late.
Thank you. Dr. Tamanna, what are the key technological components and architectures that enable the Singularity Protocol to influence effectively? You want to add any point on these questions?
Yeah, so I guess technological components, as far as it's concerned, um, any safety valve, um, you know, for example, in the nuclear technology, you have safety walls, and if that's breached, it might lead to catastrophe. So that's not happening. I hope that doesn't happen with AIs. And you don't know to what level it can go. Right now we can't envisage. We can just hypothetically think about it, that this is what is going to happen, or this is not what this can happen, or this can't happen. Politicians do not have conclusive answers to this. They are not competent enough to give answers to this. But we people, from academia, from research institutes, and people from the policy making sector, they need to come together and decide, as in, like, not like conclusive decision, but uh, think about it in a way that what technology would be required. It's like it's going to run real deep, because you can't say what can happen 50 years from now. So and like, how do you answer that particular issue? So I guess what we need is that, right now, uh, we have to, as human beings, as philosophers, as technologists, we have to think for next 100 years. I mean, if technology can move this fast, we need to move even faster. But for that, you have to have the right brains. And that is why I'm insisting that we need philosophers, because their brains can run. Plato is still relevant. So I mean, if we were to now hypothetically think about technology, and we were to think of the thing that how a technology could harm human beings or animals or the environment, it should be stopped immediately. It should not be encouraged beyond a point. So that's what I.
Thank you. What's your closing remarks for today's session?
Yeah,
Do-
so I,
Right.
I feel that
Dr. Tamanna, what's your closing remarks?
yeah, so I personally feel that what we need is a system which is ethical as much as possible, because I mean, even many of the religions are predicting, spiritual systems are predicting that changes coming in the realm of earth. So I guess probably AI is one of them. And it should not turn out to be something which, for example, during the times of in Hinduism, we have the concept of uh, Treta Yuga. Treta Yuga is Lord Rama's time. During that time, Ravana had 6 heads. I mean, these are all that all simply says something about it. It doesn't mean that he really had 6 heads, but he was that powerful and he was so intelligent, as a person. So, but that technology made him a villain. So I guess that kind of 10 heads, if this technology is going to have, it's going to lead to a lot of disaster. And so we are talking about, many of our spiritual sisters, etc., brothers, are talking about a Satya Yuga, which is going to come again. Satya Yuga means truth, and when we are talking about it right now, I guess people who are older are much more learned, and they know much more than all of us. So they would want to have a world which is safer for the younger ones, the children, and they do not get corrupted by technology or AI based systems. And the right kind of people come up in the power positions, not people who are hungry of power, but people who are looking for welfare of human beings, which is the only cornerstone which we require right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Rob, what's your closing remarks for today's sessions, or if you want additional things? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Singularity protocols are a protective mechanism. It is very similar to AI Shield in terms of concept. It is a concept to create a plan to address a super intelligence, that's the stage it is right now. We don't really have a protocol yet. We have the concept of a protocol. Which is problematic because a superintelligence at this particular point could emerge at any time. Less likely this decade, more likely as we get out in 2030s, 2040s. But as we've seen, AI development is happening at an unprecedented pace. And now that we've got AIs working on developing other AIs, that pace is only going to increase. And what we talk about the singularity is what happens when we get to a superintelligence, and that superintelligence is now significantly more capable than humans, and we want to make sure that superintelligence doesn't wipe us out. The Singularity Protocol is what's supposedly designed to prevent that outcome, and so it should have a far higher priority than it does now. We should be running simulations. At the very least, we should be running simulations at scale to see how we might contain a superintelligence if it emerged outside of our borders. I mean, if a superintelligence emerges within the borders of a technologically advanced nation, there's a reasonable chance that they could contain it. But what if it emerges outside of the borders of a technology advanced nation and then grows to scale before it actually hits the rest of the world? Even the technology advanced nation may be insufficient to stop it or contain it or protect against it. So the protocol needs to be a worldwide effort. It needs to be ready to go, and it probably needs to be AI based in and of itself. And then, of course, it has to be designed so it doesn't become the threat it's attempting to mitigate. Because if you create if you're working on a superintelligence to mitigate another superintelligence, and your corrective measure, which we're nowhere close to this now, so the risk is non-existent, but it is a concern. And if you're not careful, then the Singularity Protocol could be worse than the Singularity event. So the superintelligences. So that's what creates a huge danger here, is the fact that containing a superintelligence is beyond our capability, and so we need to create something that can do that. And that thing we create could in and of itself be as big a threat, if not bigger, than the superintelligence we're trying to stop. So the level of safety, security, and focus that needs to go into this particular effort is at least as great as creating the superintelligence is itself, and needs to be in order to provide the protective measures that it's designed to provide. So, putting it bluntly, we're not in good shape at all for this, and unless something changes, we're going to wish we had a Singularity Protocol, because things are going to end very badly if we don't moderate our own behavior.
Thank you. This is excellent discussions, and I request all of our audience, please share our content as much as possible with the government agencies, corporation, and academia. Thank you, Mr. Rob, for your excellent support for World Talent Economic Forum, and thank you, Dr. Tamanna, for joining to the sessions. Thank you. Bye bye, and take care.